Bicentenario, and greetings to all my friends from Mexico, Chile, Peru, Bolivia, Costa Rica, and many others. Greetings from Germany. And I will to present about the projectification of society, which is increasingly a topic of research, but also very practical for all our societies, because our societies, we are doing more and more projects. And that affects also not only organizations and the society at large, but also us as human beings, as people. And so it's very interesting to see that also in research, there's a lot of articles now, publications based on social theories, on societal theories and organizational theories that pick up that theme of projects in the societal context. Basically, that's not a new topic, because if you look back into literature, you will even find very old stories. Francisco de Quevedo, he was in the 16th century, very early, he wrote that Fortunes in Her Wits about the story of projectors, we would call them now project managers, which were not working well in a small island in Denmark. And you can read that, what kind of terminology he used for those people doing projects. So people were not really seen well in that time period. And if you continue, also one of the first books about projects in society, it was published by Daniel Defoe. You may know his story about Robinson Crusoe, but he wrote first an essay upon projects. And there he was describing what actually these projectors were doing in the society. And he painted them a bit like the pictures you see on the right. And I think especially you recognize the lower right one, which I actually took in La Paz. And it's very funny that he says, okay, those people, they need to make their stories about projects, and they need to build on three principles. One is common sense. The other one is honesty, so don't pick anybody's pockets. And the third one is very interesting because it says ingenuity. So you need to find solutions to all the problems that we have to overcome in our projects. So this is why it's very important to use just these skills. Now, you know, we have the ITMA individual competence baseline with more competences than just those three, but I think it's very interesting to see that. So projects date back in the ancient years, so it's not a new thing. But if we fly now into the year 1950, and in the 1950s, project management was developed as a management concept, basically in the United States of America, basically in the aerospace and defense industry, but it was a very mathematical approach. So no people were involved in that, was seen as important. You see that Charlie Chaplin photo because it was just machines. And also project management was built on operations research. It was a very mathematical problem-solving approach. So this is why we inherited network planning techniques, Gantt charts, PERT diagrams, and all this stuff. And still nowadays, through the PMBOK guide, we still have this kind of thinking that we manage projects just based on processes, on methodology, on this kind of rational thinking. But I think you all experienced that projects are much more. It's not just this mathematical or rational approach. It's a lot of political processes. So it's interests that anybody from the government side, from the owner side of a project, within the project team have their own interests, and this is politics. And as a project manager, you need to deal with politics. And I'm an engineer, so I was not used to deal with politics, but that was one of my learning fields. Projects touch very much on social processes because you do something for the society, for the community, you do it with people. So it's people doing projects for people. So it means also soft skills, You need these kind of skills that help you to manage your project in that kind of environment. And finally, also what we see, projects are about change, because you change something in your behavior, maybe in the organizational structure or in the structure of the society. And so you need also to have competences in that area. So project management changed very significantly, and it's getting more soft, it's getting more people in, it's getting more to the social and societal processes. So that's, I think, a very good news, because we live in society, so we need, as project managers, also to help society to be successful. And that is actually what we see, and also what changed project management. So it's not only the magic triangle of cost, time, and quality that we follow. No, it's rather the collaboration of a team. On the right corner here, that's the task, which is a social task very often, and the transition or the change that we do that. But what stays at the core of that change of project management still is it's temporary. So we have time limits. We have a start, we have an end. So in that time span, we do our projects, and everything is organized in between. So that's a turn that was basically pushed from the Scandinavian School of Project Management. And that's also the school I'd like to follow now. Now, if we talk about projectification, basically this word was developed by Christophe Mittler, a French professor. He observed what is going on at Renault, the French automotive car manufacturer. And he did research over several decades, and he was labeling that development projectification. And he was saying it's not only that the number and importance of projects is growing in that company, but this growing number of projects is doing something with the company. So it's transforming the companies. It's, you have roles like a project manager, you have a project management office, you have more roles and responsibility related to projects. You need to develop a certain project management culture. You will have a closer positioning of projects to the top management of the organization, etc. So I think projectification changes the context you are doing it in, and so that's very important. And nowadays, projects are seen as incubators for innovation and co-creation. And I'm working very closely with the German automotive industry, with companies like Audi, Volkswagen, VW, and others. And exactly that's going on with them. So it's changing quite significantly the setup of this organization. A few years back, we did a research here in Germany because we wanted to know what is the status quo of this projectification in our economy. And as you can see on this slide, the projectification in Germany is growing every year by 2 to 3%. And that means that we are doing more and more projects. And in overall, in the whole economy of Germany, more than 40% of our gross domestic product is already produced through projects. And that's a huge number. That's €1 trillion, which is a huge annual number. And what does it mean? We are all somehow involved in projects as project managers, as team members, as owners or sponsors. So we have different roles in that context. Government needs to take care for education. Research is looking into those numbers. And so it's very much an agenda for politics, for government, for our society to look at this trend and see what does it encompass. But if we look deeper into those numbers, it's also very interesting to see that not every industry in our country is so much project-oriented. Not every sector is so much oriented. Certainly, if we look into construction, which is here somewhere in the middle, in the construction area, quite 80% of the work share is done in projects. But if you look into agriculture, for example, it's a very, very small number. And if we see now Mexico, Mexico is doing quite significantly higher numbers in projects and project management and also certification because of their vast agricultural sector. That's not in Germany. We are known for automotive industry, and this is why in the production area, we are more or close to 50% already of the work that is being done in projects. Second number is public administration. There are the numbers pretty low, so we definitely need to catch up. So you see, it's very different, and this same research was also done in many other countries of IPMA, and we see very similar numbers in European countries. We see similar numbers also in Africa, and China is even a bit higher of those numbers, but they all range between somehow 35% to 50% of the GDP that is being produced in projects. And that, if we would do that same survey in Peru, I think you will have similar numbers. So it's a way of developing countries. It's a way of developing infrastructure, but also building health system and education. So everything, all that is connected somehow. And this spring, I did through my PhD work also a survey in Germany, but not now looking only on the economy, but all the society. And if you see on the right side that we see in the German society that all overall projectification is very much progressing. And it's also growing now. 5 years back, it was the factor of 3.42, and it's growing even by 3% per year into the year 2026. So it's an ongoing trend. It's quite linear trend of growth. So that's very interesting. But if you see on the right side, not every sector in my country is so much projectified. So if you look again in the economy, it's far ahead of public administration. But if you look into leisure, in sports, in arts and culture, that's lagging behind. And it's the same with our civic engagement. So if you look into community, municipalities, and the work those social workers are doing, they also need to catch up. They need to learn doing projects and so on. So I think it's a quite significant finding. And the German Project Management Association has picked up that task to support those sectors to learn more about project management, to catch up and level with the economy, with the companies like Siemens and Co., which are very professional in doing projects. So I think that's worth looking into that development and seeing what's going on, because I guess that's in many other countries the same situation. And this is why we are scientifically, but also practically very much interested in these things. Now, if we look a bit ahead of nowadays into the future, and I just picked some of the books that are available already. If you're interested, so there are 2 books I would like to recommend you. One is from Rolf Lundin and colleagues, Managing and Working in Project Society. And it describes the journey of many organizations that do project, that support project organization, or that are networking and work together. So that's a huge development that we see in all kinds of organizations. Even Anders Fogh Jensen from Denmark, is a philosopher, wrote that the book, The Project Society. And he is even claiming that nowadays everyone has a project. Everyone is always doing with everybody a project. So the project is a dominant way of organizing our activity, and he put that into the context of Western society. But I would even argue that's not only the Western society, that's the whole world that is more and more focusing, because I did speak with China and know they are also very much in this kind of project paradigm. And projects is a way of building up organizational structure with small autonomous activity spaces And he also labels it's all connected to networks. So we are networking together, we are working together. So it's a societal development. And Botalski and Chiapello, which you see on the left, it's a very interesting book. They describe the development in our society, and they put, I think, 7 societies. They call it cités. It's also a French word, projective cité, a part of the society that is just doing projects. It's founded on the mediating activity employed in the creation of networks. So they say the society is basically built on networking activities in form of projects where every one of us is doing somehow projects with everybody, and that on a temporary basis. And project managers, they call them project heads. They are just the networkers. They bring together people, they moderate, they facilitate, and they have the capabilities of being a mediator of these kind of networking activities and bring people together. And that's the new form of our society, and also maybe the new form of capitalism, as Botalski and Chiapello, which are very critical to the nowadays form of capitalism, are looking at. So you see already with the authors, I cited a philosopher, I cited sociologists. So it's quite interesting that project management is not only related to project management specialists, but now is catching up also in many other disciplines and theoretical areas. And if you look into very right, that's also something, digitalization, artificial intelligence, that will have an impact. And IP made this research last year, and the good news for project manager is artificial intelligence will not replace us as project managers, but relieve us. But in also my company and automotive industry here in Germany, it's catching up very significantly, and all repetitive work of projects is being replaced by this machine learning and robot process automation and all these technologies. So it's a combination of soft and also IT technologies that is changing the way we do projects and we work together. Now, what does that all mean to us as a person, as individuals, as human beings? I would say it has quite a significant impact. We are doing projects by bringing people together. People who have an idea and want to realize it together with other people. So it's a co-creative space that we create. So projects are something where we can meet, where we can share our ideas, also our experiences, and work together, realize something. But they are time limited again. So if we have ended or finished one activity, we may move to the other activities, maybe in another space, maybe with other people. So it's always changing. It's a fluctuation of events, of collaboration, of working together with other people. So it's very fluctuating, and that's positive on the one hand, but also somehow frightening a bit on the other. What is also very important, that projects are always temporal. So temporary, time limited, and so our life will not be boring. We will do always special things. We will do innovative things. We move things forward. We get things done. So we change the old things and create something new. So I would say it's just a journey, the journey of our life through projects, through doing projects, and that keeps us moving. That keeps us a bit like the nomads in the desert. So from project to project, like from waterhole to waterhole, in the desert, we do projects, and we cannot stop doing projects. Like me and all our colleagues also from Spain, Dr. Jesus Martinez, we are more than 30 years in that area, and we are like these nomads, and we cannot do without projects. So it's our lives. And I think that's very, very interesting, a very different view. Also at your university, you see and study how to manage an individual project, but you, I think, never studied or looked at projects as something that is part of your life and what you do all the time and every time. And that's also challenging in a way. And if you look into also a very nice narrative, and that's the narrative of the journey of the project hero. And there was this psychologist, Joseph Campbell in the US, and he published the book, The 1,000 Phases of the Hero. And that's a narrative you will find in the old Aztec world, the same also in the Greek methodologies, and nowadays in Hollywood movies, because it's always the same scheme that you start getting a call. And you say, no, I don't want to accept that call. I have a very comfortable life and sit on my couch. And but then the mentor is coming and saying, come on, let's go, let's do something. And so overcoming the first barrier, you go into this unknown world of that project. It's maybe a very long path. It's exhausting. And it's a long way to reach that, very much the peak of that. But the peak is also the reward, because it feels like an achievement. It feels good to have achieved something, but that's not the end of the journey. Remember, because you need to return to the renewed or maybe the old world, and that's also very difficult. And that's returning across barriers, and you have seen the unknown, the new things, but now you need to go back into your world of repetitive processes and the old stuff and the old behavior still. And that can be very challenging as well. And if you look at this, like that's a project life cycle, where you start somehow, where you go to the peak and then renew and come back to the old world, to the handover. I think that's exactly the life cycle of each project. And if you now see also the life cycle of your whole life, that's also maybe very interesting to see your whole life from that kind of perspective. That maybe in your early years as a student, you got this call of doing projects. So your whole professional life, you go to this big peak, and then your retirement and so on. So it's, I think, very interesting as a metaphor to look at this. And also see project as your development pattern. And that's basically also my life, because I work quite a lot with people all over the world, the projects with a social impact. And I always saw that as a journey, not only a journey for the people that attended my projects or worked with me in those projects, like here in Nepal, women's group, or these in the lower middle, building earthquake resilient houses in Nepal after the earthquakes, getting people into employment and so on, also in Korea and many other places. I think it's very nice to see how people develop through doing projects. And they just need a kick. They just need a mentor in explaining them what is projects, what is project management, and how do projects really contribute to our life, to our society, to the advancement of our society. And I think that's very important to me, that we should not stand still, that we do not wait on somebody to tell us what to do, so that we just engage in projects, start doing something and learn how to do it and improve and yeah, make our lives much better, and also the lives of our other people, the families and the colleagues. There's also a downside of that, and projectification has very positive aspects. I call it the beauty, but also negative sides of that, the beast. So if you come first to the beauty, I think it's quite good that through project management, to that ability of managed projects, you have the ability to react flexibly to changes in the context. So you learn that there's unforeseen, that there are changes in the context, and you know how to deal with that. I think that's the very positive side of doing projects. You also learn and find innovative approaches to the challenges of the time because you are used to that in projects. We had some month ago some floodings here in Germany, and I know you also had floodings in the last years. So it's very important that we apply project management to these kind of circumstances and know how to deal with it and organize, help, organize rebuilding, organize also how to help the people that are in that stress situation. The positive side is also that we have a space for self-actualization. So we act out, we do it on ourselves, and that's attractive, that's energetic. That's something that we'd like to do. That's also positive for the motivation. The positive side is also networking because we do things together with other people and we learn through it. And through that learning, by the way, I think you will have a lot of employment possibilities in the future because nowadays in my country, we are looking for project managers. We don't have enough project managers, so it's a rare species, and so on. Also, it's attractive for your career. It's attractive for salary. I think that's very important. And by the way, IPMA right now is doing a career and salary survey and research. So if you want to participate, just look it up at the IPMA website. Now, final view, it's also, we need to be careful with projects because as the first bullet says, it's a productive restlessness. We have no or few breaks, no stability. We are always on the move like these nomads, no place to rest. And that may be also a risk for our physical health. So we did here a burnout survey where we say project managers, they need to be careful not to overstress themselves because otherwise that will be physical condition that is not really helpful. Also in the society, we see a problem that if permanent employment or life employment, let's say with a company like Siemens, is more and more changed into a temporary project contract. And that may lead to the danger of precariat, so that people cannot live from one of those jobs and need to have a second or third job. And so we need to be very careful that we do not end up with a project society in something like that. And also, if you look into who is able to do projects, who is able to really manage these complex societal things or infrastructure projects, we definitely need people with a high skill set, with good education. And that also means that we may end up in a two-class society where we have people that are really good educated with good opportunities for their career and salary, but that we also have these dropouts, people not with a good education. So this is why it's a very important task for government, for all our society, for labor unions and so on, to take care that we take everybody with us in our society. So this is why we do a lot here in Germany for education. We even start at the school level, and secondary school and even primary school, to get the kids accompanied through experienced project managers, that we teach project management, and that continues the whole life. And we have even also very experienced senior people that mentor our students, that mentor project managers in the society. So it's a knowledge sharing in the older society, and I think that's very good news. So let me finish with that. I think we see a trend, projectification. It's not a trend that is only in the economy, so in the business world, but it's increasingly also in the rest of our society. It is really needed. If we look into our challenges of the pandemic, of natural disasters that we see climate crisis and so on. So we need all the project managers to join in and help. That's also for us a good opportunity but also a challenge. So we need to be very cautious. How do we approach that projectification? And I hope you gain some insights into that trend. And maybe if you have any questions, I'm very welcome to answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Reinhard, for the presentation. It's a great honor to have you here in this Congress. And yes, we have some questions for you. So here we go with the first one. It's related with the projectification of society. It says the projectification of society is important for the economy. As you show in your survey of your PhD study, in this way, what kind of criteria or factors not related to technical topics you consider that influence the projectification of German society?
If we look outside of the economy is doing products, economy is doing services, is doing IT infrastructure. So it's very tangible. See, it's pretty easy to look into projects from that very tangible deliverable that we have. But now if you look into politics, if you want to change your politics or political agenda, that's also a project. That's more event related because you need to meet a lot of people. You need to organize that streams of activities to have at the end a change in that political agenda. Or we have still a very big refugee problem here in Germany. So we had in 2015 1.5 million Syrian refugees from the Middle East coming to Germany, and right now they are in Poland, one country away from Germany. So we need to have concepts. How do we integrate these migrants? And it's not only food, it's not only housing, but it's how do we integrate them into the job market? How do we teach them our German language? How do we integrate them in our society? And these are all projects that are done and organized by some people, not with a product in the end, something tangible, but something, let's say, integration. And that's what I see is the sense, the purpose of a project, to integrate, to get something done, and in sense, something societal.
Great. Thank you for the answer, Reinhard. So we have another question. It's related with what kind of challenges await us in the coming years on the topic of projectification?
Yes, I think that's a good question. And I ended my presentation with this also positive and negative side. We need to be very careful that if we do more and more projects in our society, that we have more the beauty and not too much from the beast side that I just showed. I'm a bit afraid that we will also see in our society the beast, because nowadays also in my country, a lot of, let's say, this permanent employment is changed into temporary employment. So people change more often their jobs. They are paid on an hourly rate basis, not on a monthly salary basis. And that may help organizations to reduce the salaries, but what do the people do then? So we need to be very careful also from regulations and labor unions and so on, to have clear regulation that should not be the end of that development, and that we are careful not to put too much burden on our society. And I just give you one example of why Uber is not allowed in Germany. That may be surprising to you, but Uber is not allowed in Germany, not only because all these people are not insured, there's no insurance on the car or on the people if some accident happened, but the key problem is that the people are paid on a very short-term basis. But if there's nothing, no income for them during, in the periods where they have no gas, so what do they do? So they're waiting. So at the end, they are not paying into the pension funds. And at the end, if you are pensioners, who's paying them? The government, the state needs to pay them. So it's a nice model for Uber as a company because they profit anyway. But for the society, it's a very bad model. And this is why it's not allowed in Germany. And this is maybe just an example of we need to be careful what we actually do.
An interesting example and approach. I didn't know about this curious case and you were in German, so I need to read more about this. So thank you for this example, Reinhard.
And
okay,
Uber is flexible. They are now renting bikes. They are renting bikes out to people. So they are clever, but no cars.
a good solution, I hope. Okay, so we have another question regarding Germán Gallardo. What is the role of universities and member associations regarding projectification?
Absolutely, very good question. Thank you, Germán. Universities can first do research. I think that's needed. We need to understand more how this trend materializes, what is the development and where we can act. But on the other hand, the key role of universities is education. And it means, please do not only teach project management as a method or tool of managing projects, but show the whole context of that projectification. Get the people passionate about doing projects, inspire them. That is this part of their life journey, of their personal development. And so we see that the young people are very, very eager to do projects because they see that as a learning experience, as a chance also to get some experiences from other people. That's the universities. Project management associations, I see that very critical. Also, I'm engaged with those more than 20 years or so because they too much focus on the economy, on the business side. And they delivered a lot of certificates and education for company people. Now I say it's time to change that, to focus more on, let's say, all the other sectors. I'm advising them, for example, to support Fridays for Future. Because Fridays for Future and many others of these kind of initiatives, they have a very ambitious goal, but they typically don't know how to organize themselves. They have no experience in doing projects and events and so on. So we could focus and help them to be more successful because climate change, and that is something that affects us all, which should not only be Fridays for Future, it should be all of us.
Yes, thank you, Reinhard. I think I am totally agree with you in that sense, because the part of influence in the universities is not only a business approach. So I think it's more than that. So I am completely agree with you. So thank you, Reinhard. And now we have some short greetings from Germán Gallardo.
But I am going to say everything in Spanish. So you so thank you very, very much, Reinhard. Much appreciated all your contributions. Reinhard is a friend very close to Imalatnet. Thank you very much for your great contribution to our Bicentennial Congress. Thank you
very much for inviting me, Germán. And I would love to be with you. And you know, I've been traveling to your country and all the others. But there will be a future possibility to do so.
Yes, of course. Take care, my friend. Thank you very much. Gracias.
Thank you. All the best.
Ciao.
Thank you, Reinhard. And we hope to have you again in another event or Congress in the next year, and hope to have you soon also in Peru. So take care, and thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, and enjoy, and congratulations again to your Congress. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good evening.